Hello, everyone. My name is Don Pisinski. I'm from the VxRail product management team. I am here today to talk to you about VxRail dynamic nodes. So let's get right into it. So first, I just wanted to cover a little bit about what our intention here is with the dynamic nodes. Basically, we want to enable new use cases for VxRail and provide customers flexibility and increased choice, while at the same time we want to maintain the VxRail management and ease of use that you saw in the earlier Tech Field Day sessions earlier today. And we want to expand our VxRail ecosystem integration. The last bullet point here, enhance the better together, is my own personal soapbox. It's a topic I'm passionate about, and I really truly believe that we have the opportunity here to enhance the success of not only just VxRail, but the Dell Technologies portfolio as a whole. And you'll see why in a minute. You may have seen this slide already in the VxRail Advantage sessions, so I won't go through each component. As you can see, there's a lot of value to the VxRail system software. However, I do want to touch upon the ecosystems connectors. The ecosystem connectors tightly integrate with infrastructure components including vSAN, physical server components, and networking. For VxRail dynamic nodes, we are now extending that ecosystem connectors even further with storage options for more use cases and more flexibility for our customers. So let's get a little bit into more detail here on dynamic nodes. Kind of just a little history here on this prior to this release. Scaling of storage with VxRail meant you had to buy more VxRail nodes. You would scale your compute and storage at the same time. If really you only needed storage, there was no choice. The storage specific features were limited to what was in the vSAN feature set and or vSphere and vMotion. We do allow fiber channel HBAs in our VxRail nodes. However, it's kind of how should I say, it's like, sure, you can do it, but we're not really going to help you in any way, shape, or form. It's like you can install them, you have to manually configure them, you have to do all the LCM capabilities yourself, where there's no management functions within VxRail Manager. It's just like, it's kind of a bolt-on kind of situation. With those fiber channel HBAs, you could attach external storage. It was primarily for a supplemental storage use case, whether it be for traditional VMs or VCF in the workload domain. But frankly, the primary intention historically has been to migrate data off of storage arrays onto vSAN-based storage. So what's changing? You may have seen all the different configuration options available for VxRail nodes. There's a slew of different options. The dynamic nodes will be focused on the E560F, the P570F, and the V570F. And you can have, this processor options, the memory options, power supplies, GPUs, networking interfaces. But what's changing here is we're elevating the role for the fiber channel HBAs to support a primary storage role with these nodes. And those HBAs we offer are the 16 and 32 gig Emilex and QLogic HBAs. And the big change here, the most significant one, is when you look at your storage drives, there are none. There are no internal cache or capacity drives in the dynamic nodes. The storage is coming from an external storage source and is functioning as a primary storage for these dynamic nodes.
So does this mean there's no vSAN when you choose that configuration?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, that's big.
Yeah. And I'll go into more details on how it all works. So, as mentioned briefly, I won't go through all these slides. I'm going to actually crank right through these in the interest of time, because I know you've probably seen these before. But we have multiple different platform options, but we have the E series, the P series, and the V series. The E series is our low-profile, cost-effective 1U platform, for core-to-edge deployments. We have the 570F, which is our performance-based server platform for heavy workloads and databases. And our V series, which is our virtualization platform, geared towards, 2D or 3D visualization or VDI type applications. So what does this accomplish? The dynamic nodes. It provides flexible storage options, so we've allowing customers to choose the storage type they want to use, whether it be, vSAN HCI mesh, or external storage. You now can scale your storage asymmetrically with the dynamic nodes while still maintaining the VxRail system software in that operating environment. You get a compute node with a full VxRail experience, and as I mentioned, you have the different storage types. I'm just going to take a quick pause here. I have a lot more content coming up. I don't know if there's any other questions, but I can dive right into the nuts and bolts and how this is going to work.
So does the dynamic node qualify as a vSAN ready node, or I'm just trying to understand, because the purpose of VxRail, purpose-built solution for vSAN HCI, and now we're going out to primary storage again, which is, in my mind, not HCI.
Yeah. Well, can we come back to that? Because I have some slides that actually address that question, and I know I actually knew that was going to be one of the questions come up, but I kind of want to make sure that you kind of get a better understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then we can come back to that question.
This is probably a related question, but I guess it's how is this different than just host plus storage? So it's probably the same question, just asked a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. No, it's all kind of, I get it. It's all kind of part of the same. We can cover it. Let me just crank through a few more slides here, and then we can come back to that topic.
Sounds fine.
Okay. So I mentioned the flexibility of choice, right? I mean, with VxRail nodes, traditional nodes, you can do vSAN. With the dynamic nodes, you can do vSAN HCI mesh, or you can attach to a Dell EMC storage array. We have heard loud and clear from our customers that there are just some applications that require the storage-rich features that an external storage array provides. They have VxRail, they love VxRail, but VxRail is not part of that equation. Now we're bringing those two worlds together where they can use those storage-rich features for those mission-critical applications and use that VxRail operating model that they're used to. This allows customers to have a common operating model and to scale the compute and storage capacity as they see fit to match their application's needs. So we're doing this, so that you can scale the storage independently, or going with the PowerStore T, the Power Max, the Unity XT via fiber channel attach. As I mentioned, there are some applications that customers have. They have to take a whole multitude of snaps. They really use the dedupe and compression. They want encryption. They want replication, whether it be local or remote, the cloud tiering. I mean, you saw all the storage feature sets yesterday in day one of the Tech Field Day. So Dell EMC has a huge heritage in selling storage, and there are customers that know and trust it and value it. The dynamic nodes will support external storage attached as primary storage, so no vSAN. Same in the VCF workload domain, no vSAN. We'll support all the Dell EMC Connectrix, Cisco MDS, and Brocade fiber channel switches, both 16 and 32 gig. And we now will be providing management functionality for those fiber channel HPAs in the dynamic nodes. We'll be providing LCM capabilities for those HPAs. So now we have one common operating model. Whether dependent upon what you choose for your storage type, you have this common operating model. So it could be HCI mesh, so where you can share storage across vSAN clusters, or with our external storage array, PowerStore, PowerMax, and Unity XT. You saw a bunch of PowerStore slides yesterday. I'm not going to go into these bullet points, but I really just kind of want to highlight the importance of what we're doing here. We're really bringing together two powerhouses, VxRail and PowerStore, to provide flexible storage options for customers' workloads with one common operating model. I'll take a pause here. I'm going to go a little deeper on HCI mesh, but then I can stop after that if you like.
Yeah, we all want to know what HCI mesh is.
Okay, all right, let's do that.
So is this like a compute node, only now you're adding fiber channel storage to it?
Yes, that's true. Yep. And I'll come back to your question. It's all intertwined. So,
Okay. All right.
so the HCI mesh is a basically sharing of vSAN-based storage from one cluster to another. Prior to our 70240 release, each cluster contained some level of vSAN resources. So you may have a cluster with excess vSAN storage capacity, and you can share it over the network to another cluster that was maybe short on capacity. With this new release, what we're providing is with the dynamic nodes is you can have a dynamic node with no vSAN storage and get your vSAN-based storage from a remote cluster. Now that cluster is not remote in another data center. It's still within in the same data center floor because there are some networking requirements, but basically you can share vSAN resources from cluster to cluster. And there are some subtle differences between the two releases, the previous one and this new one, but the most obvious with the new one is the dynamic nodes. Since there are no internal drives, there are no vSAN licenses. So that could be a huge potential savings for customers depending upon how they want to configure their environment and what they think they may need for compute power versus storage resources for certain applications. So I'm coming back to this slide because it comes back to your original question of what we're doing here. And at the beginning, I mentioned to you the ecosystem connectors. With dynamic nodes, we're extending that ecosystem to include Dell EMC storage platforms, providing flexibility and choice for our customers to match the storage requirements to the applications while keeping a common management and operating model utilizing the VxRail system software and all the benefits it brings. And I really want to, this is part of my soapbox, I really want to harp on this consistent operating experience because it's not just a compute node, right? It is the VxRail that customers believe and trust and use day in and day out. That common operating model goes a long way to simplifying customers' daily operations, their rollout of new systems. I mean, it's the history of not doing that is, you know, if you've been in the industry long enough or where you worked, you probably have been in situations where subsystem goes belly up on a Friday afternoon. You're staring at the screen. You're looking at it, you're going, oh, geez, I don't know. This is the one that Bob built 3.5 years ago, and he's not here anymore. I don't know what he did to get this thing running. I don't know what sort of tweaks or, you know, add-ins he put to make this thing stable. And then, you know, 2.5 days later, you're finally seeing the light of day on a Monday morning, and you finally got the thing up and running with your fingers crossed, hoping it stays up and running. That's what happens when you have inconsistent operating models that allow for variances and variables and user error when configuring and managing systems. With this common operating model, you know, bringing it all together, you're improving customers' ease of use and their daily administration of their compute platforms, regardless of the storage type it's attached to. So I'm going to
So in
pause
this
here.
configuration, is it using vVols for the power store, or is it using normal data stores, or what?
It's using VMFS over fiber channel. You can use vVols. vVols would be added in addition to the VMFS over fiber channel. But the cluster is formed with external storage using VMFS over fiber channel.
Okay.
So did I address your question or not quite? Not quite.
Gosh, you know, the whole different set of questions here associated with this, but the ease of operation and simplicity to some extent is due to the vSAN capabilities that come online, and it's all A, fully integrated with VMware, B, it's even simpler than vVols to a large extent. It's all SPVM related functionality. Given the power store is easy to use and easy to configure, it's still not as easy as vSAN.
That's
At least
true.
that's my impression.
No, you're probably right there, but there are some applications that customers will not run on vSAN, right?
Then why buy VxRail? Why not just buy a Dell Power Store, Power Edge, standard node? I mean, why use the vSAN Ready node or vSAN? Why use VxRail when I can just buy the Power Edge?
Well, like I said, there are customers that have hundreds, if not thousands, of VxRail nodes. They are using that operating model. They are used to that operating model. It's familiar to them. They use it day in and day out, and they want to extend that usability to all their nodes, regardless of the storage type that the node is using.
Yeah.
Don, if I could add just 1 second to see if this can help on the explanation. The part going back to continuously validate state. If you just go with the standard Power Edge and build your own, you're essentially doing all that research, investigation, validation that you would have to do every time that there is an EXI release coming out, whether there's some type of security patch, or fixes, bug fixes, or whatnot. So by standardizing on VxRail as that primary compute platform, or if you have HCI stacks,
the other side of this question. The other side of this question is: will LCM and VLCM manage Power Store functionality the same as it does VxRail functionality? I mean, drives functionality, HBAs, and that sort of stuff. I mean, it's all got to be built into the VxRail manager, doesn't it?
It's one step at a time. This is step one, right? We got to start. You got to start somewhere. So this is where we're starting. So yeah, we'd all like to, fix everything at once, but life doesn't work that way. So
I think I've done enough damage.
That's okay. No, it's all good. All right. Well, we can move on. All right. I'm just going to kind of show you some of the day one operations when how you configure dynamic nodes and dynamic node clusters. As I mentioned, your traditional vSAN cluster, or your HCI mesh, or external fiber channel storage. So you saw some of the deployment wizard screens in the earlier presentation. So here's where you begin. You can choose your standard, vSphere cluster. Now the options we're providing is you can choose dynamic clusters. So the set of dynamic nodes must all be dynamic nodes, meaning you can't mix and match traditional vSAN and dynamic nodes in the same cluster. And here in the screen, you can see you can choose dynamic node, and they're choosing vCN HCI mesh. Same option, same screenshot. Here they're choosing a fiber channel array. All those configuration options that you were shown earlier in some of the earlier presentations still apply, except some of the networking changes are different. Mainly, you're not entering vSAN networking information, but you're entering all your standard, your DNS, your vCenter, management network, etc. And then you basically skip over the vSAN network parameters. It'll validate the configuration just like any other VxRail cluster build. Then it'll apply the configuration to the cluster and build the cluster for you. All these functions are also available in the API. So if you're a customer who prefers to manage things via API, all those options are available to you here as well. I'll talk a little bit about the day two options as far as your administration of the VxRail nodes. We have disk operations, HBA events, and the fiber channel HBA LCM. And I'll go a little deeper on the LCM functionality here. And I know Daniel covered a lot of the LCM functions earlier. But primarily what we're doing is we're including the ability to LCM your fiber channel HBAs in the dynamic nodes. The difference here is we're not forcing it in a large LCM bundle. We're giving the customer the choice to opt in to that LCM upgrade, mainly because of the differences in how storage networks may be administered in different customers. There may be a storage team that dictates what the driver levels are and what is attached to the fiber channel switches. So we're giving the customers the flexibility to, manage that as they see fit or as appropriate to fit into their operating model within the teams in their data center.
So when you talk about LCM for a fiber channel, what all does that include besides the drivers? Does it include the addressing and all of that kind of stuff?
No, the firmware and drivers. So a lot of the fiber channel zoning, all that still would need to be performed outside of the VxRail Manager interface, right? You would still use your normal switch tools to go do that.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's a journey. We're on step 1, so. The disk operations, and this is kind of basically effectively there are none. Figures there are no drives. So basically those disk operations within VxRail Manager are grayed out. There is no ability to perform disk operations in a VxRail node. For FCHBA events, we're now treating this like any other managed device in a VxRail node. So the customer would get notification if the port went down or is coming back up. These alerts will then transfer into iDRAC events and also transfer into call home events, and then also will be displayed in vCenter as well for the customer. So here's an example of an alert in vCenter, and then we have another example of an alert in the VxRail Manager hardware view with a link to a KB article on how to rectify the situation or investigate it. So I'm back to where we started. Trying to explain, the enabling new use cases, the flexibility, maintaining that common operating model and management for the customers, and really trying to enhance the better together experience for Dell Technologies products with VxRail and PowerStore, PowerMax, and Unity XT.
There was a lot of mention of PowerStore in there, but what you mentioned at the end, Unity XT and PowerMax,
Yes.
Are those coming, or are those part of this early solution, or?
No, they're all part of the solution. Let me go back here.
And it's just fiber channel storage, not iSCSI or NFS or any of those other capabilities that also are Dell primary storage protocols.
That's correct. Today, it's this first release. It's going to be fiber channel only. There are other protocols on the roadmap, but first release is fiber channel. So, apologize for the screen blasting here, but let me get back to it.
Go ahead.
There we go. Yeah, it's PowerStore T, PowerMax, and Unity XT, all via fiber channel attach.
Mm-hmm. And it's 16 gig or 32 gig, doesn't matter. Different
doesn't
FPAs.
matter. Yeah, obviously we prefer 32 gig, and it's all the same, SAN networking requirements that are, well defined in the Dell EMC eLab support matrix. I mean, they've been doing that for years on defining requirements for firmware versions, and the same with the storage platforms. And we're not changing anything with regards to that. I mean, storage area network is a well-established technology, so we're not changing any of that. It's used by the largest corporations in the world, so it's trusted.
I understand all that. I mean, a lot of the things that VxRail brings to the table is 20,000 hours of testing and validation of the various compatibility matrix or that sort of thing, and now you open up the fiber channel world into that space. And the advantage of VxRail, and the guy from New Belgium said it's just simple to upgrade. I can just click and run to a large extent. And SAN's not that way. SAN takes a lot of carrot feeding. I mean, it's zoning, it's switches, the world is different.
But we have thousands of customers who use fiber channel SAN zoning, and they have applications that they will continue to run on fiber channel zoning until such time that some new technology takes over. So they want the storage-rich features that come with PowerMax and PowerStore. So
I understand all that, Dan. The question is, can you continue to have the simplicity that's embedded in VxRail and the ease of operations and all the things that make VxRail so nice and so adaptable and so, it's 18% year-over-year growth and all that $6 billion revenue, all that stuff is based on the ease of use.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah, no, it's just it's certain customers who have their requirements, and we're trying to meet their requirements. So, yes, you're right. VxRail has built its legacy off, with ease of use and administration.
About customers, because VCF probably is the most use case for this kind of solution. You talk about workload domain, and VMware open to workload domain to use not only vSAN. And if I remember correctly, the limitation of Fibre Channel is just what VMware has just imposed for VCF at this point. It's correct. This is the reason why you, at this point, are just supporting Fibre Channel, because the main use case of this solution can be the building block for VCF, for workload domain, when a customer chooses to have a workload domain without vSAN.
Yes, that's true. I mean, for our storage arrays, still fiber channel ports are by far the most dominant port type shipped with our storage arrays. So there is a huge install base of loyal customers out there using and trusting, and will continue to use fiber channel.
So is there I think that was an interesting question just asked, right? So is this because VCF, you can now use fiber channel, or do you guys have either a specific common use case from all of these customers still using fiber channel, or is it one or two big humongous customers that are using fiber channel that are pushing this use case?
We have lots of big customers using fiber channel, and VCF in the workload domain is a strong reason as to why we're doing this. And as I mentioned, the storage arrays themselves they're still shipping mostly with fiber channel ports. So we're providing the ability for customers who also have VxRail. I mean, most customers, it's not an either or. Most customers have both VxRail and traditional storage platforms, but they like the VxRail operating model for their compute. And they want the ability to be able to have that common operating model for these other applications that effectively have been excluded from VxRail in the past.
Yeah, and to hit on the earlier statement around the validation, nothing's changed there. I mean, our storage teams work just down the hall from our ACI team, so we have access to all the hardware, all the best expertise in the industry. So all that validation will continue. And frankly, customers have told us that, you heard it from New Belgium, that they feel spoiled, right? They can kick off an LCM today with VxRail, and they can go out to lunch. They don't have to have the weekend sleepover parties in the data center to go to these updates. They want to extend that capability and that automation down to these fiber channel attached arrays. Now, granted, they can't initially do the LCM on the fiber channel array, but abstracting that complexity and having to hunt down the different supported versions, all the fiber channel support, doing all that validation just on the compute node has been a huge ask from that customer set.
I totally get it, because I can remember hearing those questions asked and not understanding why you couldn't do it. So I get it, and it's kind of cool.
Don, I have a question. I don't know if this was implicit or not, but what about customers that have third-party storage arrays, fiber channel ones? Would it be possible to connect them to dynamic nodes? Would you lose anything in terms of functionality, capabilities, and so on, in terms of management, of course, not in terms of accessing the storage itself?
Right now, with our first release, we want to stick to the Dell EMC arrays, but we will, see what the field requests are and monitor those and via RPQ, and then I guess monitor how the demand is for that, and then address it accordingly if we have to. So today.
So connecting a third-party array would work, but wouldn't be supported. That's the thing.
Yes, it's right. It's really just part of what we want to have as a solution envelope going out the door.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, PowerStore and PowerMax, replication capabilities and all sorts of other functionality. How is that going to be embedded? I mean, has it become just normal storage policy-based management capabilities, or?
Yeah, no, we're not changing the way you administer your storage or your SAN, or if you want to use the plugins for vCenter for those storage devices, then that's even more the merrier, because now you have that one interface in vCenter to administer your storage as well. So we're not changing any of those dynamics.
Whereas before it was all through VxRail Manager, right? I mean,
well, for the vSAN-based storage, or still within vCenter, but you could still use vCenter with the plugins from PowerStore and PowerMax to administer storage as well. Or if you wanted to go to the native, element manager for PowerStore, PowerMax, or UnityXT, you could do that as well.
Mm-hmm.